Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Maddie here, and today we're going to be rating every EX card ever printed in Pokemon Pocket. The 1-year anniversary is coming up, and because it really is sort of the end of an era of this first year of Pokemon Pocket, I wanted to make a couple of these sort of historical, kind of retrospective type videos. Today we're going to be rating and ranking all of the EX cards ever printed to Pokemon Pocket. Maybe we do sort of like the 3 Diamond Rarity cards next, or maybe we do supporter cards, or anything like that. We'll have to see sort of how this goes. Maybe we rate the metagames, the ranked seasons. I kind of wanted to do videos like this sort of in this last week before the anniversary update comes out. So that's what we're doing today. We have every single EX card ever printed here on the tier list. I don't know who made this tier template, but shout out to you for doing that. We're just going to go in order, I guess, as it is put in here. What we're going to do is kind of, historically give a little bit of a mention or a shout out to each one of these cards for maybe when they were relevant, if they ever were in the metagame. I'll give some historical context, and then I'll talk about how good they are, currently right now in this final season, this final metagame of Pokemon Pocket. Now, before we get into the tier list, though, I gotta recommend that you guys go and play in our final showdown tournament this weekend, Saturday at noon. Now, because the 1-year anniversary update is coming, B1 is coming out, the Mega Pokemon are coming out, this is actually the last week. This is the last tournament ever of Pokemon Pocket as we know it, of this A series, this first year, the final showdown. It's the 5th tournament of our series, sponsored by BoxGG, $250 in the prize pool. It is a standard format tournament this week, so nothing will be banned. Definitely go check it out. Link to register down in the description below. I highly recommend it. Whoever wins this tournament, I am dubbing the champion of Pokemon Pocket, at least until next year. So whoever wins this, you get those glory points. You get the title there. I'm gonna dub you that. I'm gonna call him champ. That's what I'm gonna do for the entire year. Definitely go and check it out. Shout out to box.gg, link to register down in the description below. Let's get into the tier list. Yeah, so a lot of EX cards, man, a lot. This is broken out by typing, which is, I guess, totally fine. I'm not actually going to do timestamps, mainly because I don't have all day. So we're just going to go ahead and just rip this. We're going to go right through it. Since it's in order here, you guys can kind of skip ahead pretty easily, I think. So no timestamps down in the description below. I apologize. And hopefully this video doesn't take like 5 hours. We're going to try to move pretty quick. So anyway, comment down below. Let me know what you guys think of these placements. I would love to hear your opinions about any of these cards, quite frankly. Again, I've been covering Pokemon Pocket ever since it came out. I am very analytical. I have a lot of experience. I would classify myself kind of as a Pokemon Pocket historian at this point, which is kind of funny to say, but yeah, I figured this could be fun, nostalgic. Let's hop right into it. First off, we've got Venusaur EX. So Venusaur EX is a Pokemon that never really was in the metagame. Shout out to Sekiro for basically being the only player ever to like top a tournament with Venusaur EX. There are some instances, at least early on in the metagame, where Venusaur was fairly good, but unfortunately for Venusaur is that even back in the day, things like Charizard were just a lot better and had more support. There are Pokemon that you can play with Venusaur, like that keep it alive, that heal it up a little bit. Now we have Leaf Cape and Erika's and things like that. But in general, I just don't think Venusaur was ever really, truly meta. But there's probably some worse EX cards. So I'm actually going to put Venusaur right here into the C tier. I think that's probably an okay placement for Venusaur. Again, there's a lot of EX cards, so we have to be pretty realistic with how we, rank these things. But yeah, 3 energy attack cost into a 4 energy attack cost. How are we getting the 4 energies on Venusaur? Who really knows? We do have some colorless energies. Theoretically, you could play Venusaur with some of the new baby Pokemon and grass energy, but no one's really going to do that. Rare candy isn't something that really works well for stage 2 Pokemon with a lot of energy in their attack cost, right? So things like Venusaur, even though it has a lot of HP, and it can heal a lot. Unfortunately, Charizard just always existed and always scared Venusaur out of the format. Now we have things like Flareon as well. So Venusaur going into the C tier. Next up, though, is Exeggutor EX, which actually is continuing to see a little bit of play in the metagame. There was actually a time where Exeggutor EX, in my mind, was the best deck in the game. When it was initially released in Genetic Apex, this was definitely not a bad card, and it saw some play sort of in that first season. But at the same time, there just was other things that people were playing until Mythical Island came out, and we got access to Celebi EX, which we'll talk about next, which actually, when paired with Exeggutor, was kind of considered to be one of the best decks in the entire game. I really like Exeggutor. And now with Will being released, it's actually not a bad card. You can play it with a Alolan Exeggutor, which is probably a bit more of a meta card, but you can play them both into the same deck. It's got Leaf Cape, it's got some additional support. I think Exeggutor EX is a good Pokemon. Realistically, if we're ranking this like from a historical context, which is probably what I'll do in Pokemon Pocket, is just rank these cards like overall throughout the entire year, not so much their viability currently right now in the specific metagame. I'm going to give Exeggutor probably either a high B or an A tier mention. Do we really want to give it A tier? I'm going to give it B tier for now. That might be a little bit we'll give it A tier, actually. I think Exeggutor is broken. It's a stage 1 Pokemon with 1 energy in its attack cost, which is really cool. Historically, stage 1 Pokemon are really only good if they have 1 energy in their attack cost, or, you know, they have some crazy effect. Like I said, it's been in and out of the metagame a little bit, but even today, this card still sees play. I'm going to give it an A tier mention, right? We have a lot of EX cards, so a lot of them are going to be a lot worse than Exeggutor EX. So shout out to Exeggutor. I love it. Celebi EX is an interesting one. Some people might be surprised by my ranking here, but Celebi EX was never really that good. Its time in the metagame was very short, and the reason it really ever saw meta play, it was because it kind of got carried by Exeggutor. People did play it with, you know, maybe Leafeon at a time, or they played it with Jungle Totem Superior, which also released, I believe, in Mythical Island. It just really was never that good. Celebi is actually used better as like an early game attacking option to just sort of be like a tempo attacker, but you have to get lucky with coin flips. Even with Will now in the metagame, Celebi really doesn't see that much play. It was a somewhat popular card at some point, and it can, of course, do a bunch of damage, but it's very inconsistent. Truthfully, I would say that Celebi is like a B tier Pokemon. I think Exeggutor is actually better than Celebi in terms of like an all-time ranking placement, so that's where it's going. Next up, though, we have Yanmega EX. And Yanmega EX, some people might be surprised by this because this card has not seen play other than the one metagame specifically where it did see play. I believe Yanmega came out in Spacetime Smackdown. And at the time, like, we had limited options, right? So you got to understand Yanmega with a 3 energy attack cost. Some people might not be able to see the cards, so I'm going to kind of explain them. 3 energy colorless attack cost. It hit for 130 damage, I believe. We can actually just pull them up over here if we really want to. Yeah, 120 damage for Yanmega EX. And then you discard a random energy from this Pokemon. This card is basically the grass type Alolan Exeggutor EX, but you got to understand that this came out alongside Darkrai EX, which was an extremely dominant card, and still is. And Yanmega was really one of the only cards that could 1-hit KO Darkrai pretty consistently. So the idea with Yanmega was that people would play it in other decks because it had colorless energy in its attack cost, and it would be able to kind of KO Darkrai fairly consistently. We didn't have Guzma at the time or Red, so it wasn't like that consistent because we did have Giant Cape. But you played this, I believe, with Dialga back in the day. It was sort of a really interesting counter meta deck with Dialga EX back in Spacetime Smackdown during the Darkrai Magnezone era. I actually really like Yanmega. Again, very specific like counter meta call for one particular season, and this was even before Ranked came out. Some people are going to be confused, but a lot of the stuff we're going to talk about was in the tournament metagame before Ranked came out, which we also had covered back in the day. So Yanmega, I'm also going to put like probably B tier. I think it actually was a bit more successful than than Venusaur was. I actually think Yanmega and Celebi were actually kind of comparable for a time there. Next up, we've got Leafeon EX. You know, and Leafeon EX is an interesting one, also because this is a card that like kind of always sees a little bit of play, but it's never really that good. Leafeon is not a bad card at all. It's one of the few Pokemon in the game that hard walls Guzzlord EX. It's like the only Pokemon in the game that really does that very consistently. That and Exeggutor, I would say. And the whole reason for that is that it can actually generate energies. The effect for Leafeon is quite strong. Of course, all of the evolution stuff has gotten like a massive buff. It's been just really, you know, bolstered by strong support cards. And of course, people played Leafeon primarily with Flareon for a season or two there. And definitely a meta deck, one of the better decks of one of the more modern seasons for Pokemon Pocket. I like Leafeon. I think that this is a strong card, and this card actually has potential. We could potentially see Leafeon see a decent amount of play with maybe a grass-type Mega Pokemon in the future. Now, unfortunately, grass-type Pokemon always have it a little bit rough, right? Because fire has always been prominent in the format to some degree. So, you know, Leafeon is interesting. Do I really want to put it A tier? I don't think it's as good as Exeggutor. I'm not going to lie. I like Leafeon, but I think I'm going to put it like a high B tier. I'm going to put it above Celebi and Yanmega. Again, mostly really only seen play in the Flareon Leafeon deck, which again was really strong, was definitely pretty meta, but wasn't as influential in its respective season as it was as Exeggutor EX, which in my mind was actually the #1 deck of its respective season there in Mythical Island. So we're going to put it like high B tier. I think I have it above Celebi and Yanmega. We'll put Leafeon like right there. Next up is Beedrill EX. We got to go quicker, don't we? This is crazy. Beedrill EX. Oh, man. We have a lot to talk about. We have to go, like, actually really fast. Beedrill EX was sort of always fringe metagame, but was never actually really that good. I think B tier is also kind of a proper placement for Beedrill. Was never, like, one of the best decks in the game, but did benefit from rare candy around the time it came out. I actually forget what set Beedrill came out in. Maybe it was an A3 or something like that. Maybe it was Shining Revelry. I kind of forget. We're going to put it like just B tier. I'm not even going to order the tiers, really. Now, Decidueye EX. Now, Decidueye EX is a strong card. It saw play with Meowscarada. I think it has potential to see more play in the future. Just a really strong effect. Greninja has been popular in the metagame for quite some time, so I guess that really negates a lot of the reasons to play Decidueye. Are we also going to put Decidueye here in the A tier? No, I think it also goes B tier. I think it's going to be like a lot of the grass Pokemon are B tier, I'm not going to lie. Decidueye is going to go right there into the B tier. It's seen a little bit of play ever since it kind of came out. Even this season, it's seeing a little bit of play. It's not a bad card whatsoever. Again, just grass is not it's actually fairly well positioned right now. Yeah, we'll keep it in the B tier. I think Decidueye is fine. Again, there's going to be a lot of really strong EX cards. Grass is probably one of the weaker types as far as EX cards go. Next up is Dhelmise. Dhelmise is a flat D tier. If anybody that doesn't know what Dhelmise is, it literally has this attack called Anchor Shot, which is 3 energies, 80 damage on a basic, and then during your opponent's next turn, the defending Pokemon can't retreat. Now, again, you need to understand, we don't have like a grass baby Pokemon. You can play Dhelmise like a Darkrai and like Turbo Dex, but then all you're getting out of that is 80 damage, and your opponent can't retreat. This card is not good. Theoretically speaking, it could see play, but it's just not good. It retreat cost of 2. It never, ever saw any play. Nobody even tried to play this card. That's how bad it was. Buzzwole. Let's talk about Buzzwole, because I actually think that Buzzwole as a card itself, and again, this is going to be one of the more interesting ones to rate. Buzzwole EX is a Pokemon that, in its own right, isn't that strong. Some people might be surprised to hear that, but it's really not that strong of a card. It's just strong in the sense that it has a ton of support around it. So we will be kind of factoring all of that in. Like Buzzwole as a card in a vacuum is not that good of a card at all. But just in the context of the Ultra Beast decks and all of the Ultra Beast support, it's very good. So we're going to factor that into Buzzwole's placement realistically, because it wouldn't make sense to rate it without all of its support cards. With Celesteela, with Lucamine, with Leaf Cape, this card is actually kind of crazy. One of the cards and really one of the decks of all time that is good into Darkrai, and specifically Giratina Darkrai, it still sees play in the metagame right now. It's one of the best decks of all time. Really was kind of the star of ED Crisis. We're going to put it right here in the A tier. I think it's definitely above probably Executor, and Buzzwole is an A tier placement. Again, not rating it in a vacuum, but rating it relatively and contextually with all of the cards we have available with it. Shout out to Buzzwole going into the A tier. Next up is Shuckle, and Shuckle also goes, I'm actually going to put it C tier. This is going to be funny. Nobody ever played Shuckle, but I don't think Shuckle's that bad. I think realistically, it's just like a worse basic version of Executor EX. So there's really never been a reason to play Shuckle, but if you were to play Shuckle, I actually think that this card is not that bad. It takes reduced damage. It's a basic Pokemon. It has a single energy attack cost. You can kind of park it into the active spot. We'll pull up Buzzwole. You can park it into the active spot and then just kind of soak up damage and then chip away at your opponent periodically, right? So Buzzwole EX, triple slap, 20 damage or 40 or 60. It's really not that bad for a single energy attack cost, and it takes reduced damage. Maybe C tier was too high of a placement. We'll put it D tier. How about that? Jumpluff. I actually think Jumpluff is also one of the Pokemon that, again, it never really made sense to play this. Not that it's a bad card whatsoever. It does 70 damage for 1 colorless energy, which is actually really strong when you consider it is a stage 2 Pokemon. So that is the downside. You need Rare Candy to get it out, but after you attack, you can retreat to your bench or swap it with a bench Pokemon. This works well with Oricorio or really other strategies. I think Jumpluff has a lot of potential, honestly, in the future. We're going to put it right here, C tier. I'm going to put it actually above Venusaur. So that is where I'm ranking all of the grass type EX Pokemon. We have to move really quickly from here on out. I was not pacing myself properly. So now we have to absolutely start cruising, okay? We got to start ripping. Next up is Crimson Storm Charizard, Genetic Apex Charizard. I think that this card was broken for quite some time now. I think realistically, what took Charizard off the map was Mew EX in Mythical Island. But for the whole first season of Pokemon Pocket, I think that Charizard was actually probably the strongest card in the entire game. People consider Mewtwo or Pikachu to be like the best decks of that first season of Pokemon Pocket. But if you look at the last 3 tournaments that all were really large tournaments of that season, Charizard actually won all of them. And that's just because it was the original high roll deck and nothing could beat it if it got set up. So enough people played it. And it ended up just sort of winning all of those tournaments towards the end of the season. Again, in today's Pokemon Pocket, nobody plays this card. So we're rating this historically in Pokemon Pocket. We're going to be putting Charizard also A tier. I think that this card was absolutely dominant for quite some time. But it's not as good as the other Charizard, I will say. But anyway, we'll put Charizard EX here in the A tier. We'll give it the nod. Now, Arcanine is interesting because when Arcanine saw play, it was also kind of mid, but it was fine because you just played it alongside Charizard. That was the only time Arcanine EX ever saw play. To be fair, I think that deck was carried primarily just by Moltres, which, probably was a high rating. In fact, I'm going to put Charizard down here into the B tier. I'm not going to lie. Arcanine, I'm going to put C tier. This was also a card that did actually see some play. It won some tournaments, but that's because it was carried by Moltres and Charizard. Inherently, this card was never actually that good. We're just going to put it right there into the C tier, kind of probably where it belongs. Now, Moltres, though, Moltres was kind of the star of the show. It was the enabler of these two Pokemon. And because I think that Charizard, I would say was B tier, Arcanine was C tier, Moltres was A tier, and I think it really did carry the deck list, and I think it's still relatively a strong Pokemon. There's definitely some opportunities to just play Moltres, especially with like Mega Blaziken or something like that. I don't know if it's going to be better to play Entei. We'll have to see. Like, Entei's also not a bad Pokemon, but Moltres at the time, it completely carried the fire archetype for like forever. This card it was actually really good, and you could still attack with it. That was the crazy part about Moltres. That's kind of how I'm feeling here. We could swap these. Like, we could put Moltres B tier and Charizard A tier. Some people might recommend doing that. Like, how good really was Moltres as opposed to Charizard? Charizard didn't work without Moltres. So that's the thing, is like both of these cards relied on each other, and they probably always will. So like, what do we really want to do with this? Like, do we want to put, I don't know. I really don't even know. Maybe we put them both B tier. Is that too hard of a, we got to put one of these A tier. I mean, we'll put Charizard A tier. We'll put Moltres B tier. How about that? Next up is Infernape. Infernape is a Pokemon that some people tried to play, but inherently just isn't that good. Discarding the energies, 140 damage is a little bit awkward, especially when you could just play other Pokemon that hit for more than 140, like Charizard. Infernape is not bad. The free retreat is really cool, but on a stage 2 Pokemon, it really doesn't matter that much. We're not leading off with Infernape very often. It's not a bad Pokemon, so we're going to put it C tier. I just don't think it's like that good. You know what I mean? I don't think Infernape is like, you know, the best thing like since sliced bread. I just don't, I've never been high on Infernape. It's seen like fringe meta play. I think C tier is like a very good placement or a proper placement for Infernape EX. Now we have Stoke Charizard. We have Shining Revelry Charizard, which is kind of the GOAT, I would say, of like the fire type. Charizard, the Stoke Charizard is crazy. It really is. Like with Rare Candy, with all of the draw engines we have now, ever since this card was released, it was actually pretty good. I would say that Charizard actually really wasn't relevant from a metagame perspective until we got Sylveon. But that one ranked season where we had Sylveon and Charizard, which, you know, now Charizard still sees play with Cleffa, but at the time we had Sylveon Charizard, it probably was like the strongest deck at that time of that season. I'm going to put Charizard S tier. I really am. If we put Crimson Sword Charizard A tier, like Stoke Charizard has to go S tier. This is like a quintessential like staple in Pokemon Pocket for this year. One of the most iconic cards we've ever gotten. The ability is absolutely insane. It came out with like, we have Lily, we have Rare Candy. This card is absolutely insane. We're going to put it S tier. I really do think that it's like an S tier quality card. People might not agree with that, but it's been so relevant ever since this card was released. We don't really, I mean, are we putting it S tier though? That's the question. You know, we are going to reevaluate. I keep switching. We're going to put it A tier. We're going to move Charizard and Moltres B tier. How about that? That's what we're going to do. I want to be really specific about the S tier cards just because I think S tier should be reserved for like, you know, the true like absolute goats of Pokemon Pocket. So we'll shift it around a little bit. I apologize. Stoke Charizard, it's going to go high A tier. We have Charizard here from Genetic Apex and Moltres in B tier. Anyway, Incineroar. What about Incineroar, right? I think Incineroar is fine. It never really was like that meta. Honestly, the best moments for Incineroar realistically were when it was paired with Stoke Charizard, and it kind of got carried by Stoke Charizard in that sense. Incineroar has always been a bit of an awkward Pokemon, not a bad Pokemon whatsoever. I kind of want to put it like low B tier, but at the same time, I also kind of just want to put it C tier. So that's what I'm going to do. It is better than the other C tier cards though. I guess we'll put it below the other fire Pokemon in B tier. We'll rank the Pokemon respectively based on like within their typing groups of each tier. So Incineroar, we'll put it B tier. That's fine. I don't have really strong opinions about Incineroar. Flareon though. Flareon is broken. Flareon is probably, you know, if not like it's up there right now, I would say, with Charizard for probably the best fire type Pokemon we've ever had. The disrespect around Flareon before it was released was really high, and I don't really know if I believe that, but Flareon has seen play in Turbo Flareon, Flareon Jolteon, Leafeon Flareon. This card has been extremely relevant ever since it was brought into the metagame. It's just a strong card. You have Eevee Bag, you have Red, the Eevees that can find a friend or draw a card. You know, you have Sylveon you can pair with it. You have Genetic Apex Flareon to get around Oricorio. It's just a really, really strong card. The Combust ability is one of the most strongest abilities in the entire game. Anything that can cheat out energies realistically is broken. We're going to put Flareon into the A tier. Kind of bordering on S tier in my mind, but again, we have to be very selective with the S tier mentioned. Flareon goes into the A tier. Next up, we've got Ho-Oh. Oh man, where are we putting Ho-Oh? It's tough, right? I mean, it is really a card that you really only play to support Lugia, but in that vein, like, is it that good? You know what I mean? Like, probably not. I would put Lugia just probably C tier. Honestly, it's 3 colorless energies. It is cool to generate the energies. Maybe we put it B tier. I'm going to put it low B tier just because of the potential for this card to be good against with like, it's flexible. You know what I mean? So even nothing really utilizes Ho-Oh that well. Theoretically speaking, you could use this for a variety of different reasons. I'm going to put it B tier. I think Ho-Oh is not a terrible card. Definitely better than the other cards in C tier. So that's where that's going to go. And next up, we have Entei, which is tough because I also feel like Entei has a lot of potential in upcoming metagames. But if we're talking about this first year Pokemon Pocket, historically, Entei really hasn't done anything. I'm going to put Entei here also C tier. I'm going to put it above Arcanine and Infernape because I think Entei is a fine card. It's just, you know, Suicune, blah, blah, blah. Not really much room for Entei to be that relevant ever since and it's a relatively new card. It only came out a couple of months ago. We're going to put Entei C tier. It hasn't done much ever since. Next up, we got the water type Pokemon. We got our big boy Blastoise here. Blastoise is like the in-between, right? If Charizard is B tier and Venusaur is C tier, like Blastoise would be kind of right in between them. Do I really want to put Blastoise B tier? Was it ever really that like meta relevant? It saw some play, but I don't think Blastoise really ever did anything. I think C tier is probably an okay mention for Blastoise. I'm not going to lie. Next up is Starmie, and Starmie EX is weird because effectively it's still Volley but worse, and it's a water type EX Pokemon. The thing about Starmie is that it did see play, like with Arcanine, or with Articuno way back in the day, but ever since then it never really did anything. So in its respective time period, back in the day, I would say this is probably like a B tier card. So we're going to put it B tier. We're going to put it B tier for sure. Articuno, though, I think Articuno is an A tier mention. Like, you got to keep in mind, Articuno was extremely relevant for a long time. With Misty back in the day, it saw a lot of play, saw some success, and that was all the way up until, of course, we got like 18 Trainer Misty, which came out in like the A2 block for some time period. Articuno always has been relevant. I would say that really, are we putting it A tier? We can't put it A tier, can we? We have to put it B tier. I keep rating these cards too high. If we put Articuno B tier, is Starmie also B tier? Probably not. Starmie is probably also C tier, but Starmie was better than Blastoise, right? Kind of weird. We'll shift everything down. Again, I'm kind of jumping the gun a little bit. We got to put Articuno probably B tier. I wouldn't say it's like an A tier card, even though it was pretty relevant at some time. It was never like one of the best decks in the game. Maybe it was like 18 Trainer Articuno for a brief period. But anyway, we'll put Articuno B tier. We'll put Starmie C tier. Lapras. Lapras is horrible. It's a D tier card. Most of the promos are going to be horrible. The thing about the promo cards is that they just can't be good because not everybody can get access to them. Doing 80 damage for 3 energies and healing is just not that good. Like, we would literally rather just play Articuno and not heal. Like, the healing, it just isn't really a factor when you're playing Lapras, so you'd rather do 80 and then hit the bench and then utilize like Cyrus or whatever, or take KOs than like hit 80 and heal a little bit of damage. Like, realistically, Articuno is just a better card than Lapras, and I think that was why it just never really saw play. So anyway, Lapras going to go down there into the D tier. Shout out to Lapras. Probably not even that bad of a card, but was never really relevant. Next up, we've got our guy Gyarados. Gyarados to me is one of the legends in Pokemon Pocket, one of the all-timers. But Gyarados, to be fair, like, it was sort of the top dog in Shining Revelry. It was also strong in Mythical Island, probably the strongest card in Mythical Island at the time when it came out. So, you know, I think Gyarados is really good. It's got to go A tier. I mean, it can't be S tier. Gyarados hasn't seen much play for like a little while. So for that reason, like with Oricorio coming into the format, like Gyarados is strong. Maybe Mega Gyarados takes its place. But yeah, Gyarados is an all-timer. It really is. Like, it's a throwback, one of the best cards we've ever had. But certainly I wouldn't say like S tier. You know what I mean? It's A tier. All of the A tier cards are extremely respectable. So we're gonna go ahead and put it. We got to put them in order. For some reason, I'm not doing that properly. We'll do it like this. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so anyway, yeah, Gyarados will go in the A tier. It's got to be an A tier card, you know? Palkia EX. Now, what about Palkia? Is Palkia also A tier if Gyarados is A tier, right? That's sort of the question. I don't think Palkia was as good as Gyarados, but is it better than B tier? Is it better than Articuno? That's sort of the question, right? Definitely relevant for some time, but ever since Oricorio came into the format, it just didn't make any sense to play Palkia. It does see a little bit of play now in the Gyarados Suicune decks, but that's really just to discard it into one at KO baby Pokemon. I'm going to put Palkia B tier. I just don't think it's on the same level as Gyarados, but it's definitely still a respectable card. Next up is Glaceon, yo. Glaceon EX or Glaceon EX, one of the worst cards actually ever. Like, the ability is so bad. 3 entities, what is it, like 80 damage? Is it 80 or 90? I kind of forget with Glaceon. Either way, the card is bad. Let's see if we can find it here. Where is it, Glaceon? It does 90 for 3, which, I mean, isn't that bad. But unfortunately, the 10 damage to your opponent's active Pokemon on Pokemon Checkup at the end of turns is a bad effect. Really not a good effect. This card never saw play. I'm actually going to put it in the D tier. Just generally, just a D tier card. This card was never good, never saw any play. Wugtrio, on the other hand, the legend Wugtrio, very inconsistent. To me, this was sort of the spiritual successor of things like Articuno. back in the day. Even though it's a completely different card, it just sort of took that place, I feel like, a little bit, where people wanted to play sort of these RNG-based water decks. It was kind of broken to go like turn 2, pop out throughout attack and like just start hitting for a bunch of damage. It's 150 to 3 random Pokemon, or 50 to 3 random Pokemon. That adds up to 150. Really not bad at the same time, but like realistically, this card just, I don't know. Are we really going to put this B? We can't put a B tier. It's got to go C tier. Shout out to Woke Trio. Fringe meta at a time. Hasn't seen play for like ever, but definitely a little bit interesting. You know, Crabominable is also interesting. This is probably one of the most slept on Pokemon of all time. Crabominable is literally a water type Executor. That's what this card kind of is. 40 damage for 1 energy. Again, 1 energy, stage 1 Pokemon, 160 HP. This is a big boy. And then during your next turn, you do 40. So like there was a time actually where Crabominable was a pretty good card. Its win rates for a couple of seasons were actually pretty respectable. It was probably one of the best water type options at a time when nobody was playing water type. And that's because it's not weak to lightning. It's weak to metal. Oricorio couldn't just absolutely like just destroy you. So Crabominable was underrated. People aren't going to understand. I'm actually going to put this in the C tier. This card saw a bit of play when it came out, and it was actually not bad at all. Unfortunately, Solgaleo and stuff, was a thing at the time. But anyway, we're going to put Crabominable C tier. You know what I'm saying? Primarina, though. What about Primarina? Do we really want to put Primarina? It's basically like a stage 2 Lapras card. It's probably better. I don't know, actually. Did people really play Primarina? I guess some people played it. We'll put it C tier, I think. C tier is probably fine. Again, it was sort of a fringe meta card. Definitely not on the level of Palkia and Articuno in terms of influence on the metagames. Even at the time it came out, I would say that Incineroar was probably better, and Decidueye was definitely better. So Primarina we're going to put into the C tier for sure. Again, Oricorio really affected a lot of water type Pokemon for quite some time. Kingdra being another example of that, another stage 2 Pokemon that unfortunately just wasn't that good. Like, what does Kingdra do? So does it also like force you not to be able to retreat? I think it like locks you into the active, right? Where's Kingdra right here. Stormy Prison. Yeah. So 90 damage and then you can't retreat. This effect is not as good as you would think. It's an okay card, but again, there really was never a reason to play Kingdra. So nobody played Kingdra. But again, is it really D tier is the question? Like, are we really going to put Kingdra in the D tier? We'll put it like bottom. I'll put it bottom C tier. It really is kind of worse than I think a lot of these cards. I'm going to reorganize this a little bit. I'm going to put Starmie up here. It's fine. We'll put C tier just like this. Anyway, Primarina and Kingdra both probably C tier cards. Lastly, though, we've got Suicune EX. So, here's the deal with Suicune is they kind of went a little overboard, and I think that Suicune EX is potentially the greatest card ever released in Pokemon Pocket. I think this card is crazy. I do think it's carried by all of the other Pokemon that you can play with it, but so are most Pokemon. Like, there's very few Pokemon in the game that are just inherently strong no matter how you play them. Suicune is reliant on things like Irida. It's reliant on, playing it with Greninja and Rare Candy and Cyrus. Like, the whole package is really what makes the deck, but Suicune itself is a broken Pokemon. It's a basic Pokemon, 140 HP. It draws an extra card every turn, which is absolutely ridiculous, but it also stops your opponent from benching Pokemon. It's a very, very strong effect. This card kind of does it all. It's got a lot of HP for a basic Pokemon. It is a part of the best deck in the game right now in the current metagame, but also the best deck probably in the history of Pokemon Pocket. Suicune is an S tier card. This is the type of card that we have to reserve for S tier. And there's a couple other cards that'll make it in here, but Suicune EX, in my mind, definitely S tier. Its influence is off the charts. Next up, we have Genetic Apex Pikachu, which, Circle Circuit, this attack actually is not that bad. One of the best cards, if not maybe the best card from the original season of Pokemon Pocket with Mewtwo and Charizard, of course. But Pikachu, really didn't see any play for a long time, up until recently, until we got things like Pichu and Zeraora and Oricorio. Like, now you can play Genetic Apex Pikachu. The HP definitely hasn't aged very well, which does make it tough, but I would say overall, Pikachu here is an A tier card. This is definitely a strong card as far as cards go. Zapdos is another one, the original other EX card. At the time, there wasn't anything else really to play with Pikachu EX, so you just played Zapdos. It really wasn't that bad. There were definitely some games that people would win in tournaments just by getting lucky and saying, you know what, this game's going to come down to whether or not I can flip 3 out of 4 coins with a Thundering Hurricane or whatever this attack's called. And sometimes you would, you know what I mean? So again, at the time, it was sort of an ancillary piece in Pikachu decks. Was never that good. I'm going to put it B tier. Zapdos definitely a fine card there for the B tier. There's not that many lightning type Pokemon, which is sad. The other thing to mention is there's no stage 2 lightning EX Pokemon, which is kind of crazy. Like, to be honest, imagine a rare candyable lightning Pokemon. It could be crazy. Anyway, Pachirisu EX. I feel the same way about Pachirisu. This really was kind of the better option to Circle Circuit Pikachu for quite some time until we had just a broken amount of lightning Pokemon to play with it. 18 trainer Pachirisu was actually really relevant for a couple of seasons. I forget what set Pachirisu came out. It might have just been A2 Space Time Smackdown. I forget. Definitely not bad. It was like pretty meta for actually quite some time. I don't know if I want to put it A tier, but I will put it like high B tier. I think it definitely was a totally fine Pokemon as far as like lightning Pokemon go. You know what I mean? The lightning type is going to be really hard to rate, but we have Thunderbolt Pikachu, which to me is also A tier. I think that Thunderbolt Pikachu is really the only thing that lightning ever had to like really consistently one-hit KO. And yes, you discard all of the energies, but as we see in the metagame right now, all of the lightning type decks are playing this Pikachu, or most of them are, just to be able to one-hit KO and end the game like that. So this Pikachu is really relevant. A really, really strong card. It fits well in most lightning type archetypes. We have E-Switch as well. Elemental Switch is absolutely broken. It kind of sets up Pikachu a lot easier. I would say Pikachu got massively buffed by E-Switch, in fact, and we have Electrical Cord. The lightning type has every support card you could ever imagine. And Pikachu really is like the heavy hitter of the lightning type. So it's got to go A tier with the Genetic Apex Pikachu as well. Alolan Raichu. This is interesting. I don't think this card was ever really good until Suicune came out. And even now, it is a pretty heavy counterplay to Suicune, but in the same vein, I just don't think it's good enough against really most other things. It's not bad. This is very similar to Yanmega. However, I would say its position in the metagame is also probably actually pretty similar, where it was like a good counter meta choice, but very niche and not like the most consistent, easy thing to kind of plug into your deck. I'm going to put this a B tier. I think it's like a high B tier deck. I think that Alolan Executor is totally fine. Raichu EX is missing, I guess, from this tier list. So the most recent promo EX card Raichu we're not including, but I would probably put it like C or B tier. Honestly, just keep that in mind. Next up, we've got Tapu Koko EX. Shout out to Tapu Koko. This card is good. I think it's really another card that got buffed heavily by things like Elemental Switch because of the fact that it generates additional energies. One of the best leadoff options in the game to deal with Suicune to 2 at KO Suicune. Retreat cost of 1. It's got 130 HP, which is actually not that bad. I actually really like Tapu Koko. I'm going to put it in the A tier. Don't at me. I'm going to put it like bottom below the Pikachus. I think it's an A tier card. I really do. I think that there's so much lightning support. Tapu Koko has just been getting better with time. Really relevant in the current metagame, again, because of Suicune, but it is in general just a strong card. The fact that you can generate additional energies, you can play with Zero Aura, you can just get a bunch of energies on your board and then quickly retreat and then, move those energies to your Oricorio or your Pikachu EX. It's just a really strong card. I'm going to put Tapu Koko into the A tier. Next up is Lantern. Shout out to Lantern. This card also is not that bad, but unfortunately, like it relies on status effects, which like is never really good, and Arceus is very common still in the metagame. It's not D tier. Lantern is to me like the first C tier lightning card. I'm not gonna lie, like I don't think it's really that good. Most of the lightning Pokemon are pretty good now that I'm realizing it. They've all had some position in the metagame at this point or at some point, and we have very limited amounts of them, which is kind of crazy. Next up, though, we have Raikou EX. Shout out to Raikoko, one of my favorite decks of all time. Raikou EX is strong. It's underrated, I think, right now, just because it's tough. Like, in the meta right now with Greninja and Suicune, like Raikou is actually still one of the better cards into that particular matchup. We have Pichu, we have Zero Aura to get the 2 energies onto it really easily. We have Electrical Cord and stuff. Like I like Raikou EX. I think if this Pokemon had just like 10 more HP, or the attack did a little bit more damage, or it had 1 less retreat cost, this would be like a solid A tier card. But I think Raikou is a totally fine card, and I'm going to put it into the B tier. Again, it does have the legendary pulse ability, so it can drop. This card is going to be really relevant. All of the legendary beasts will be relevant at some point. I promise you that. Unfortunately, we did put Entei in the C tier. I think it's the worst of the few, but if Suicune is S tier, I think Raikou's B tier and Entei is C tier. So Raikou EX going into the B tier, I think it's totally fine. It's definitely one of the better B tier lightning type Pokemon. Next up, we get into the psychic type, and we all know what's coming eventually. But anyway, let's talk about Gengar EX. This video is at 33 minutes. We need to just cruise. We need to start cruising. This is going to be an hour-long video. I'm already stressing about it. Gengar EX. Man, Gengar. Everybody tried to play it, but it was never that good. Never really ever that good, which is crazy. But yes, Gengar is going to go into the C tier. RIP Gengar. Did kind of do fairly well at a couple of tournaments. Next up is Mewtwo EX. So again, if we're talking historically, Mewtwo EX maybe should go into the S tier. In Genetic Apex days, it was one of the best cards in the game, was definitely the most popular deck in the game, and then continued to get more support into Mythical Island with Mythical Slab and then, Mew EX, but it kind of rose back up with Giratina in Mewtwo Giratina back in Shining Revelry, at least in the early season. But, I wouldn't wouldn't put Mewtwo in the S tier. I'm going to put it A tier. People are going to be surprised by that. Like, even historically speaking, I don't think Mewtwo's that good. I just, like, S tier is that, you can be at the very, very top of A tier, but the difference between A tier and S tier is going to be pretty drastic. Mewtwo going A tier for sure. Next up is Mew EX, which is a broken Pokemon, but hasn't been relevant for a very long time. The only reason you would ever play Mew EX is if commonly there were Pokemon in the game that won it KO'd themselves. Back in the day, that was common. We had things like Charizard, we had things like Mewtwo, we had things like Palkia. These were all Pokemon that would just, you know, like do enough damage to KO themselves, which is Mew could copy that attack and then revenge KO. So Mew EX was actually the reason for Crimson Storm Charizard's exit into the metagame, which is crazy. But Mew EX, we're going to go up here. We're going to put it B tier. I think this is totally like a fine Pokemon. Maybe it enters back into the metagame. Maybe not. It really just depends on what the attacks look like and if we're a one-hit KO metagame. Next up, we have Miss Magius. I think Miss Magius is actually not that bad. I just don't think it was ever really good enough to see like real significant meta play. C tier is probably fine for the for Miss Magius. Cresselia, though, also horrible. We're going to put it into the D tier. Again, it's the same thing as Lapras. There's no reason. There's literally no reason to play this card. It's just the little bit of healing that these Pokemon do does not help you, okay? You're either getting 1-hit KO'd or you're getting 2-hit KO'd, and the healing doesn't change that, no matter what the scenario is, right? It's very unlikely. So we're going to put Cresselia in the D tier. Shout out to Cresselia. Next up, we have literally the GOAT of Pokemon Pocket, and that is going to be Giratina EX. Probably the best card ever. Suicune is competing for it, but the flexibility of Giratina, the longevity of Giratina, the absolutely just busted a Pokemon of Giratina, generating energies, hitting for 130, having 150 HP as a basic Pokemon. This card breaks the game. It has been, in my mind, the most iconic, the most competitively viable card in the history of Pokemon Pocket. It's gonna go into the S tier. Shout out to Giratina. Absolute legend, one of my favorites of all time. Just a broken Pokemon. I mean, can we talk about Giratina for a sec? I mean, geez Louise, dude. What a broken Pokemon. Next up is Lunala. Lunala saw a little bit of play, but the only reason Lunala was ever remotely relevant was because of Giratina, and even then it was a fringe meta deck. We're gonna go ahead and put it into the C tier. Shout out to Lunala. Next up is Sylveon. So where are we putting Sylveon? You know, I'm gonna be real here. I'm actually gonna put Sylveon S tier. I am, and the reason for that is because that Sylveon is still an absurd Pokemon. Yes, in the world of Suicune EX, it doesn't make that much sense to play Sylveon in some decks when you could just play the legendary beasts. The draw effect can be better. The cool thing about Sylveon is that it can draw cards when it's on the bench and not in the active spot. That is really relevant. Sylveon will continue to be a strong card. It's good in Flareon. It was good in Charizard. It still is good in Charizard. It's good in Solgaleo. It was literally like a core aspect of the best deck of the metagame a couple of seasons ago. Sylveon is an S tier card. Like in the history of Pokemon Pocket, it's got to go S tier. That's how broken it is. Espeon, though, Espeon's interesting because this was sort of the other half of sort of that tier 0 deck back in, was it EV Grow format? I really like Espeon. And I think similarly to Mewtwo, it was kind of carried by a couple of things. Still a really strong Pokemon. I think Espeon is going to go into the A tier. This is now, the thing is, people are going to call me hypocritical because I put like the promo cards that heal into the D tier, but Espeon's different. And the reason it's different is because it has access to, EV Bag, which can also heal from both Espeons, and you can heal with either Espeon on the same turn, right? So you can infinitely heal and just never lose against Oricorio, which is crazy. You can heal upwards of 60 with both Espeon, plus EV Bag is 80. You can Giant Cape these things. Like, the healing is actually a factor for Espeon. It's the only deck that has really actually been it's the only Pokemon that has actually been able to successfully be meta based off of its healing ability. By far the best healing ability in Pokemon Pocket. Right now, it's not very good for sure, but like this card is broken, so I think A tier is a proper mention for it. Next up is Machamp. Was Machamp ever played? Probably not. I think Machamp 130 is it for 3 fighting on a stage 2 Pokemon. That's bad. It's a bad card. We can't put Machamp anywhere other than D tier. Shout out to my boy Machamp. Really not good. Marowak, though, was actually probably the better fighting Pokemon from Genetic Apex. I actually think Marowak is a good card with Will. I just don't think anybody's played it. I think Will Marowak is probably a pretty fine deck, but that's pretty random on my own right. I'm gonna put Marowak C tier. Again, it's a fine Pokemon. Not D tier. Not anything above C tier for sure. Aerodactyl EX. Let's talk about Aerodactyl. Pretty strong effect. Historically, basic Pokemon have basically dominated the game, and Primeval Law, stopping your opponent able to evolve their active Pokemon, is a strong effect in some scenarios. It can win you games, but I don't think Aerodactyl really is like that good. Is it B tier though? Is it better than C tier is my question. I am actually going to put Aerodactyl B tier. I think with Mega Pokemon coming out, Aerodactyl might actually be pretty relevant. And I think the effect is somewhat strong. It's a fossil Pokemon, which is cool, makes it unique. We'll put Aerodactyl B tier. How about that? Gallade, I think, also is a B tier card. Gallade was pretty relevant at some point in certain metagames. You know, 2 energies means that you can utilize this with rare candy pretty effectively. It's not a bad Pokemon by any stretch of the imagination, but always was haunted by Giratina. We're going to put Gallade also B tier. Shout out to Gallade. And same with Garchomp. In fact, Garchomp might have like A tier potential. The fighting type is rough, man, because all of these fighting cards are bad. I mean, are we going to put anyone in the A tier? I guess if we had to put a fighting Pokemon A tier, it would probably be Garchomp. So let's just do it. Let's give him the nod. We'll put him A tier. Probably fine. You could play it with Sylveon. You know, you could play Lily with it. You can hit the bench, which is pretty good. You can play it with Rampardos, which is what people did. Rampardos is not an EX card, but it is the best fighting Pokemon of all time. So if we had Rampardos in here, it would go A tier. But I'll just put Garchomp A tier. That's fine. We have to give the fighting. Maybe we not. We'll put it B tier. We can't put Garchomp. Look at the A tier decks, guys. Look at the A tier Pokemon. Are we really gonna put Garchomp A tier? Probably not, right? Probably not. Lucario. Lucario is D tier. Horrible card. No one ever played it. No reason to play it. It's just not a good card. Again, how are you getting 3 fighting energies on Lucario? Same with Machamp. It's not, you can't do it. It's just very difficult. Not a good card. Passimian. This is another card that literally no one ever played, but actually I think it's better than some of the D tier cards. I'm going to put it C tier. Again, it's like, you know, maybe contradicting myself a little bit because no one ever played Passimian, but it's actually not a bad card. We'll put it into the C tier. Shout out to Lycanroc as well. Lycanroc is a Pokemon that no one ever played up until the most recent couple of tournaments. I think Lycanroc is fine. I'll also put it C tier. You know what? These are like fine Pokemon. A lot of these fighting C tier Pokemon are not bad. There was never ever any reason to play them, which is why, you know, they're probably... We're giving them a little bit of a nod by putting them C tier. I think that's fine. Definitely better than Lucario and Machamp, though. My gosh. Donphan. Now, Donphan is an interesting one. Might this be also a B tier mention is the question. Donphan saw a little bit of play. It's not actually a bad Pokemon really at all, but are we really going to put it B tier? Look at the B tier cards. I mean... A lot of these cards are pretty good. I don't think we can put Donphan B tier. I'm also going to put it high C tier. I think it's fine. I don't think it's as good as Garchomp or Gallade or Aerodactyl. Maybe we'll put it B tier. We'll put it bottom B tier. How about that? But Poliwrath, I guess Poliwrath did see a little bit of play, but it always had a horrible win rate. I kind of want to put Poliwrath D tier. I'm not going to lie. Yeah, we are. We're going to put Poliwrath. No, we'll put it C tier. How about that? I'm very indecisive. It doesn't really matter. It's like C or D tier. Who knows? We'll put it C tier. It did see a little bit of meta play. It was like a card that people tried to use, but I don't think it's really that good. So we'll put it C tier. I think you'd rather just play Charizard or Dragonite in like every stretch of the imagination. So there we go. That's the fighting type Pokemon, probably where they all belong. No A tier or S tier for fighting type. LOL. Definitely the worst type in the history of Pokemon Pocket. Shout out to Rampardos. Wish you were an EX Pokemon, but alas, you are not an EX card. Anyway, the tier list is pretty large here. It's going to be hard to fit all this on like the screen at the time. Are you guys liking this video? What's going on here? We're just rapid firing. Is this video fun for you guys? Are you interested in this video? Who knows? Comment down below. Let me know. Next up is the dark type Pokemon. There are some bangers in the dark type. Weavile's an interesting one. I actually think Weavile is a totally fine Pokemon, but it's also kind of a weak Pokemon. And the only real reason Weavile saw any play or any success was because of Darkrai. Now, are we going to put Weavile in the B tier? I think that B tier is reserved for like pretty okay Pokemon. And I think Weavile is like a pretty okay dark type Pokemon. So we're going to put it B tier. I think that's probably a good place for Weavile. Next up, though, is Darkrai. And as we've seen, I think that this season right now is actually really defining Darkrai as probably one of the best cards of all time, if you didn't already think that. Now, Darkrai saw play in Giratina Darkrai, but in my mind, it was always kind of like the little brother. It was like the sidekick to Giratina in Giratina Darkrai, which is the best deck of all time from a historical standpoint. But in all of the Turbo Dark decks, it's absolutely broken. It saw play with Weavile. Like, Darkrai is kind of the GOAT. I'm not gonna lie, and I think that its ability is really just the reason for that. I think that Darkrai is potentially one of the best cards ever. I just think Nightmare Aura is inherently broken. 20 damage just to attach an energy is crazy because we're going to be attaching energies anyway. You know what I mean? I think this card could get power crept or creeped. I don't know, but it is definitely one of the all-timers. We're going to put it right here into the S tier. They're not really in order, guys. They're just ordered by type, so the tiers aren't really in order. But Darkrai definitely deserves an S tier mention. Alolan Clodsire, or Paldean Clodsire, rather. Clodsire is not a bad Pokemon. This is another one of those cards where it's like, definitely doesn't deserve D tier, but definitely doesn't deserve anything above C tier. Definitely not a bad card, but never really did anything in the metagame other than just be kind of a meme, fringe meta option, and it's not bad. It's just not a consistent, very good card. So we're gonna put it C tier. I think it fits very well with all these other Pokemon in C tier. A lot of C tier cards, a lot of B tier cards. But anyway, Alolan Mach. This is potentially the worst card of all time. Is this a contender for the absolute bottom of the barrel card? The thing with Alolan Mach is like, again, why would we ever play this card? Right? It's a stage 1 Pokemon, 3 energies, 80 damage. Yes, you can burn, you can poison, whatever. I get it. But like, again, what are we doing here? Why are we playing Alolan Mach? Maybe this card's broken in the future. I don't really know, but Alolan Mach here is one of the more interesting Pokemon that I've ever seen, and just a bad Pokemon in general. Guzzlord EX. Let's talk about my GOAT here, Guzzlord. Guzzlord might be an S tier Pokemon. You got to understand, Guzzlord has been relevant ever since it was released, and I think it would be inappropriate to rank Guzzlord in a different tier than Buzzwole. Again, it is reliant on the entire package. It's a bit more flexible than Buzzwole. You can play it a lot more different ways. You can play it just on its own. It's broken. You can play it with Poison, which is broken. You have access to Lusamine, to Celesteela. We have Will now. This is a good card. I think actually Guzzlord is a better card than Buzzwole, and I kind of said that when this card came out. I don't think we can put Guzzlord in the S tier. The S tier is definitely the VIP zone. Guzzlord, though, is knocking on the door. He's right there. Guzzlord wants in. He does. He wants in with Gyarados. He wants in with Flareon. He really does, but he's just missing out a little bit. We're going to put Guzzlord there into the A tier. Next up is Crobat. Shout out to Crobat, a card that is actually pretty good, but unfortunately just not good enough. We're going to put it C tier. I think it's probably, we'll put it B tier. I like Crobat, actually. Not a bad Pokemon whatsoever. And then we have Umbreon, which again, also I feel a kind of similar way to Crobat, but I think it's probably a little bit worse. I think Umbreon kind of was carried by the non-EX Umbreon, which is actually just a stronger effect. I think it's fine. I mean, the Cyrus effect, like the ability of it is actually pretty good. Maybe this card is extremely relevant later on, but up until now, it really hasn't done anything. We'll put it C tier. I think that it's probably appropriate. These two cards in B tier are interesting to me, but they've done just more. They've done more than Umbreon and Clodsire. So maybe we put Umbreon B tier. I think that's probably a fine placement, actually. Clodsire, you can sit C tier, and then Mach, you can go D tier. We'll give Umbreon the nod. I think B tier is probably fine for all 3 of these dark type Pokemon. And next up are the dragons. So again, we have Ultra Necrozma, D tier. You are a promo card. You are horrible. Anybody that thought this card would be good when it was released was just living in outer space, quite honestly. How are you consistently getting 2 metal and 2 psychic energies onto this Pokemon? Like, how are you doing it? And you're not even KOing. Like, yes, you're discarding the energies, that's broken, but you're gonna get KO'd. Like, you like, what is this card doing other than just sort of like randomly discarding, what is it, like 5 cards from your opponent's deck? That's a strong effect, but if you do it on turn 8 and then you get KO'd after, like you lose the game. Like, it doesn't help you at all. Decking out isn't a win condition in Pokemon Pocket. This card is horrible. It's going to go into the D tier. Shout out to Ultra Necrozma. Now, Dragonite is interesting because shout out to Dragonite because it made the comeback of the century. This is a card that when it came out was like kind of okay, and then it got better, and then it got actually pretty good. And now Dragonite is a consistent deck amongst the top standings of all online tournaments, at least this season. This is sort of the new high roll. Do I put Dragonite A tier? Do I? I probably don't. No, we're going to put Dragonite B tier. I think it's fine. Maybe, just maybe this card is relevant when Mega Pokemon come out, but 180 is going to feel a lot worse than 200. So that's why I think Dragonite's been fine. Like, again, in a vacuum, Dragonite is stronger than, Tapu Koko EX, I guess, or like even Genetic Apex Charizard. In the current metagame, it does see play, so you can give it the nod there. But the thing is, like, when it saw play, which is right now, it isn't as impactful as any of the cards that are in A tier have been, right? So this is like a historic tier list. So its impact on the current metagame is pretty decent, but it's not as high as any of these other cards were in their respective time periods. So Dragonite going A to B tier, I think, is probably pretty fine. Next up, let's talk about the metal and colorless Pokemon, because most of these Pokemon are horrible. Anyway, Dialga, though. Let's talk about Dialga, who was literally a cornerstone of the most broken deck, literally like the tier 0 deck of a certain season. It did see a little bit of play. Did it actually, or was that really the only time Dialga ever saw play? I think Dialga was horrible until Arceus came out, and then Dialga Arceus was by far the best deck in the game, and then Shining Revelry came out, and it was no one played it. It was a horrible deck. Everyone played Giratina. So Dialga is a really interesting card because I would say that it was kind of carried by Arceus, but it was kind of an enabler. Where did we put Moltres? B tier? Yeah, we'll put Dialga also B tier. I think B tier is probably a fine mention for our boy Dialga. Next up's Probopass, which man, oh man, are we really gonna put Probo in the D tier? Did anyone play Probo? I'm trying to think. Probably not. Let's put a D tier. Shout out to Probopass. I think it's just a worse version of Skarmory, which we'll rank in a little bit. Yeah, I don't think anybody played Probo. Maybe they did. Did anybody play Probo? I think maybe it saw a bit of play with Dialga at one point. Not a good card. Not something I would recommend you play. Tinkaton is different. Now, like Tinkaton has been like an actual deck, like a card that people have played from time to time ever since it came out. I don't think it's good, but I think it's better than Probo. We're going to put it C tier. Next up, we do have Solgaleo. How am I going to rate my boy Solgaleo, man? It is one of the better Pokemon in the history of Pokemon Pocket. I'm trying to think back to a time when it wasn't massively overrated. Like, when it came out, it was overrated. And in ED Crisis, maybe it was okay. Like, with was it? Actually, I'm pretty sure the deck was bad up until Eevee Grove when people played it with Sylveon. No, because it got played with Shiinotic. When did Shiinotic come out? Because that deck was actually pretty relevant. I'm going to put Solgaleo probably... I mean, if Dialga's B tier, Solgaleo's got to go A tier. I mean, it's probably one of the worst A tier decks. But again, in terms of like meta influence and how many people played it, it did like do well at a couple of tournaments. Like we'll put Solgaleo A tier. I think that's like a bit generous, but probably kind of fine. Alolan Dugtrio is also interesting. I can't really remember a time where this card ever saw that much play. Man, are we gonna? Yeah, let's just put it D tier. Nah, we'll put it C tier. Why not? It's pretty funny, right? It's kind of like Wugtrio, but you don't have Misty. Who cares? I mean, at the end of the day, I don't even know really what's going on here. You flip 3 coins and you do like 60 for each heads. Like it can be good, but like also like, no, we'd rather just play Tinkaton. I think those are actually pretty similar Pokemon. Next up is Skarmory though. I actually think Skarmory has a lot of potential. Again, uniquely pretty good into Suicune decks just because it can kind of sit in the active spot. It does have the supporter card that works right alongside it. You have like the new metal saddle or whatever it's called. I don't know what it's called. The metal tool card that reduces damage. Skarmory is really not a bad card. I think B tier is probably fine for Skarmory. Just because like even this season, like it's seen a little bit of play. Again, it's just been not like good enough to really be that relevant. The metal Pokemon really are like not that good, which is kind of crazy. Honestly, Solgaleo is probably the best Metal Steel Pokemon EX card of all time, and I honestly think Dialga and Skarmory B tier are really the only B tier qualifiers in my mind. Tinkaton maybe is knocking on that door, but yeah, like the Metal Pokemon really have never been that good, which is kind of sad to see anyway. But yeah, we'll put Skarmory B tier. I think it's probably fine, honestly. Anyway, next up is Wigglytuff EX. I mean, where are we putting Wigglytuff to? Kind of crazy. It's really tough. The B tier is clogged with just like a bunch of okay Pokemon. You know, Wigglytuff did see play back in the day. It did. It really was never that bad of a card, but relatively speaking, it was never like that relevant. I'm trying to think. There might have been like a couple of metagames early on where it actually plays pretty well. Are we really going to debate Wigglytuff that much? I don't know. We'll put it C tier. It might even deserve the B tier mention, but I'm not putting Wigglytuff B tier. I'm going to be a little bit more stingy about it. So Wigglytuff, go in C tier. Shout out to you. And I think Pidgeot can also go C tier. This was a card that everybody tried to play, but there was never any reason to play Pidgeot. I think people were just really happy about having a new card. They wanted to play Pidgeot. They thought it was okay. It really was never that good. I think Pokeflute came out alongside Pidgeot. It was a fun deck. Just it was never that good. C tier is probably fine. It's not D tier, but it's not C tier. Licky Licky is also probably C tier. I think that this, like, colorless Pokemon are hard to be D tier, you know what I mean? Just simply by the fact that, like, they're probably okay. And I think Licky Licky, Pidgeot, and Wigglytuff are all in that sense. Like, did anybody really play Licky Licky EX? Like, did it ever do anything? Probably not, but I just can't imagine this is a D tier card. Maybe it is. We'll put it D tier. Shout out to Licky Licky. RIP to all of the Licky Licky fans out there. Game time decision. Anyway, next up is Arceus EX. And, let's go. Arceus EX to me is in fact S tier. Yeah, Arceus is insane. This card has been relevant since it was released. It's seen play in like every deck known to man because it's so flexible. Being a colorless Pokemon, all of the Arceus Link cards that you can play with it, like Carnivine back in the day, Crobat back in the day. You can play it in like Turbo decks, Turbo Lightning Arceus. You can play Turbo Dark Arceus. It was the best deck in the game with Dialga when it came out. Arceus is relevant. This is a relevant card. I'm spazzing right now. Arceus is S tier. In fact, I heavily believe that. I think Arceus is one of the all-time greats in Pokemon Pocket. We have to put it S tier. We literally have to. It's hard. Like, honestly, if we were to rank the S tier, like, Arceus might be like the second or third best card of all time. It is that influential. It's been that good ever since it was released. Shout out to Arceus, an incredible card. But Barrel, going D tier. I've never even touched this card. Horrible card. Don't play Barrel. What even is that? Rayquaza. Now, this is actually going to be one of the few promo cards that I think deserves above D tier. We're going to put it C tier. Yeah, because it's colorless. Like, it's not that bad. It's not a good card. It's just not that good of a card. You know what I mean? Like, come on. It's Rayquaza, but it's not D tier. It's really not. Let's put it in the C tier. Why not? Probably, okay, next up is Eevee EX. This is going to be the hardest card to rate, by the way, because this card doesn't do anything. This card literally, it's the only EX card that you would never use other than just to evolve it. And it's the only EX card that can evolve. So that's the whole point of it. How do we rate Eevee, actually? I guess we just rate it based off of like the decks that it sees play in, which is like Flareon decks or like really any of the evolution decks would play Eevee. Does that make it good? I guess. Can we even rate Eevee? What do we do with this? This is actually more of a liability than not. I get it enables the strategies by being able to play 4 Eevees in your deck, which is inherently broken. It's the only thing in the game that can do that. And I do think it's like the biggest reason why Eevee decks are good. But in a vacuum, the card is horrible. But again, I guess, yeah, let's put it, I don't even know. I guess we'll just put it A tier. Why not? I mean, it's Eevee. Like, yeah, I mean, come on. There's been a lot of relevant evolution decks. Flareon's A tier, so Eevee's got to go A tier, right? I mean, we can't even rank this. I mean, whatever. Don't even worry about it. This card, it can one-hit KO baby Pokemon, so there you go. It can also get like one-hit KO by Tyrogue, which is fun. Next up is Snorlax. Snorlax EX. This card is not bad. It actually isn't a good card. But the cool thing about Snorlax is that, you know, we have baby Pokemon and we have Darkrai and we have Pokemon Center Lady. Like, this is not a bad card. It does see play in potentially one of the better decks in the current metagame, but the decks aren't good because of Snorlax. Like, Snorlax is really just sort of a one of in the deck just to like have something, you know what I mean? That's better than nothing. I'm going to put Snorlax B tier. It's definitely not an A tier nod in my mind. I'm going to put Snorlax B tier. Is it A tier? Is Snorlax A tier? Man, that's a great question. Nah, we'll put it B tier. I think that's fine. I think it is. I think it's a B tier card. I think it's definitely not as good as Arceus or Darkrai. So, I think B tier is just a fine placement for Snorlax. I think it fits well in a deck right now. But that's only because there's no other card to play with it, and we just needed another attacking Pokemon for the math. But other than that, Snorlax just really isn't that good. Anyway, we're gonna put it into the B tier. I think it's fine. Next up we have Lugia. Man, oh man, what about Lugia? Where did we put Ho-Oh? We put Ho-Oh B tier. Is Lugia really B tier? I don't think so. Lugia's gonna go in the C tier. It's not a good card. It's basically like worse in most ways than Dragonite. The only reason this card exists to any capacity, I think, is because of Ho-Oh. And I think Ho-Oh is actually just a better card, like in a vacuum. It's a more important card to the deck than Lugia is. So yeah, we'll put Ho-Oh right here, B tier, and I think Lugia can just sit in the C tier. I think that's probably fine. What is this? Blissey EX. I completely forgot this card existed. D tier. It's a promo, and no one's ever played it. That's the tier list, everybody. Long video, huh? It's a long one today. What was this a good idea? Was this a bad idea? Comment down below. Let me know your guys' opinions. Basically, all EX cards are pretty bad, but there are a number of them that are pretty decent. The B tier is like this, where like I think all of the okay cards, the playable cards, are in. A tier, these are like significant members of the Pokemon Pocket metagame. These are likely cards that will be relevant in the future or were extremely relevant at one point in time. And then we have the S tier. This is like the quintessential. These are the meta cards. These are the most broken cards in the entire game. If you have Arceus, if you have Darkrai, if you have Giovanni, or sorry, if you have Giratina and you have Sylveon and you have Suicune, you can just build like a lot of meta decks with these 5 cards alone. Like, you don't really need anything else. Like, any coordination or combination of these 5 cards, you can end up with something that can win you a bunch of games. So there you go. Anyway, that's my tier list. What did you guys think of this? This is my historical Pokemon Pocket tier list. Let me know. You know, I want to do more stuff like this. I would like to rate maybe all of the supporter cards or item cards or, you know, just holo rare cards. Like, if you guys into this, I wanted to do something like this, you know, because we're coming up to the end of this year of Pokemon Pocket. So it's a bit of a retrospective. It's a bit of a look back. We don't do videos like this very often, so comment down below. Let me know what you guys think. I apologize this video was so long, but yeah, something to do. We're just waiting for B1, so, you know, don't get on my back about that. Go play in the tournament this weekend. $250 in the prize pool, the final showdown. The final showdown. It's going to be hype. Shout out to BoxGG, $250. Saturday, October 25th at noon Eastern. Go play in it. Link to register down in the description below. I got nothing else. Let's end the video here, guys. Peace out. Have a good one. We'll see you guys later. And yeah. Bye.